in the schools all over the world. Darwinism controlled 99% of the world. There is actually a Darwinist dictatorship throughout the world. Darwinism is protected by the 95% of the states as an official state ideology. So there is a Darwinist dictatorship. And in the schools, it is being taught like a scientific fact. The evidences which refute Darwinism, for example, the protein evidence, the impossibility of the proteins to emerge by chance, or the fossil evidence, 350 million fossils, are not allowed in the schools. Darwinism, although it is not science, unidirectionally, one direction, it is imposed into the young brains of the people. But this is wrong, because the concept of Darwinism inevitably leads to violence and terror. Struggle of the survival, strong individuals survive, weak individuals get eliminated, and the strong ones crush the weak ones. And the conflict was the cause of the progress. If you put these into the subconscious minds of the young people, saying that you are an animal, you have to fight for survival. If you are strong, you survive. If you are weak, you get eliminated. And in order to survive, you have to fight. If you put into the subconscious mind in the high schools and the universities, this inevitably leads to communism to violence and terror, fascism and racism and anarchism. That is the reason why in the 20th century, more than 350 million people were killed. That was the bloodiest century of the entire human history. Muslims got separated, and then people, World War I, World War II, atomic bombs, cities were destroyed, people were destroyed, 350 million people, because of this Darwinist concept. But in Islam, Allah orders us to be compassionate, to be merciful, to be loveful. There is justice, there is tolerance, there is no forcing anybody else. And Muslims are obliged to protect the Christians, the Jews, and even the mushrikin, the idolaters. If you ask, if Allah says, I seek refuge in Allah from a curse Satan, if the idolaters, the mushrikin, ask you for help, for Aman, Allah says, you have to bring them to a place where they are going to be secure. And by doing that, a Muslim, if he has to, endangers his life to protect the idolaters. So, religion is compassion, mercy, there is self-sacrifice, there is peace, justice, and tolerance in love, in the religion. Darwinism has taken away the love. It brought egoism, selfishness, enmity, hatred, and the materialist logic into the world. And because of this, 350 million people were killed. Now, I'm coming to your question. Why mammals? What about mammals? Darwinists say the fish emerge onto the land and step onto the land and transform into land animals, reptiles. And reptiles, they say, transform, although there is no evidence for this, reptiles transformed into land mammals, and land mammals returned back to the sea and became sea mammals. Let me show you on a slide. And Darwin is the one who tried to explain the origin of these sea mammals. I'll show you on an example. Okay. Okay, these are the sea mammals. For example, the dolphins, very cute animals, and there are huge whales, 30 meters long, and they weigh more than 60 tons. Now, let's see how the evolutionists, they try to explain the origin of sea mammals. According to Darwinism, the bears, which went to the sea to hunt, they transformed into huge whales, 30 meters long, weighing for more than 60 tons. Do you know who said this first? Charles Darwin. This is from Charles Darwin's book, Origin of Species. Darwin said, I can see no difficulty in a race of bears being rendered by natural selection more and more aquatic in their habits, with larger and larger mouths, till a creature was produced as monstrous as a whale. Basically it says, the bears, they went to the sea to hunt. By opening their mouths more and more, they transformed into huge whales more than 30 meters long and weighing 160 tons. You know what happened after that? This was taken out from his following edition of his book by his followers. They did not like this. But the thing is, Darwinism is a nonsense. There is no evidence. Allah shows us. No, we have 350 million fossils, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 350 million fossils. There are bears, there are whales, there is nothing in between. Allah created bears as bears, whales as whales. Allah created fish as fish, land animals as land animals. Allah created humans as humans, apes as apes. There is nothing in between. So there is no evolution whatsoever. Darwinism is dead. In fact, Mr. Harun Yahya, Adnan Oktar, you can read his books, which is scientific struggle all around the world. There is Creation Atlas. This Creation Atlas has thousands of pictures of fossils. You can download this from harunyahya.com. You will see fossils with high-tech pictures. You will see zoom pictures. The fossil shows us there is not even a millimetric change in the fossils. Millions of years ago, fossils appeared all at once, fully formed, sudden appearance. Sudden appearance is creation, of course. And they never changed for hundreds of millions of years. So there is no evolution. Could Allah create through evolution? Yes. Of course, Allah has infinite power. Evolution could only happen not by chance, but creation of Allah. But Allah did not create through evolution. We know this from the fossil evidence. And we also know this from the Quran. In the Quran, Allah gave us evidences of sudden creation. For example, in the Quran, angels and jinn, are they created through evolution? Of course not. In Quran, Allah says, Moses throws his staff onto the ground and it all of a sudden transforms into a living snake. So wood staff, made of inanimate matter, all of a sudden transformed into a living being. Is that an evolution? Of course not. It's all of a sudden transformation. Allah says to Moses, hold it. Hold on to that. Moses holds on to the snake and it transfers back to staff. So there is no evolution. Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, peace be upon him, he breathes into mud, given a shape of a bird, and it all of a sudden transforms into a living bird. Is there any evolution through over millions of years? Of course not. Mud, the inanimate matter, all of a sudden transforms into a living being, a living bird. There are Puris, Vildans, Gulmans, maidens in the paradise. Are they created through evolution? Of course not. So Allah always gives us examples of a sudden creation. And Allah says in the verse, remember, Allah is the originator of the heavens and earth. When He decides on something, He just says to it, be, and then it is. And we see the evidence of creation in the fossil record. They appear all at once, the species, the living beings. In the Cambrian period, 3.5 billion years ago, the bacteria, the land animals, all of a sudden, there is nothing in between and fully formed. Of course, that shows us Allah did not create through evolution. Allah does not need any causes. Allah creates these causes and effects for the human beings. But Allah is not bound to them. Allah is beyond everything. He has infinite power, inshallah.
One question, very interesting. They say that if you have cloning of the animals or human, then you can cloning. Replication of a human being or an animal. Then would there be a replication of the soul as well, which was given by God?
Of course not. Soul is something, it is beyond matter, it's not matter. Allah breathed His soul to human beings. But Allah has infinite power. For example, if Allah would create the soul in a cat, then we will call a cat a human being. So the soul makes human beings, but it is something beyond matter. It's not matter, and we cannot comprehend what the soul is. In fact, Allah says in the Quran that only little information is given to you, Allah says, about the soul. So we cannot perceive what it is. It's beyond matter. It eradicates Darwinism and materialism completely. That's the reason why Darwinists never like to talk about the existence of the soul. But it's a technical fact. Because We are living in our brains, in a very small area of our brains. We can see this three-dimensional world. We can see, we can feel, we can touch, we can smell. So it is not the atoms. Atoms cannot see other atoms or touch or be happy, for example. That proves us technically the existence of the soul. There is an inner being which can see without the eyes. There is an inner being which can hear without the ears, touch without the hand, and smell without the nose. And that is our soul. And how do we know that? Because Allah tells us, because Allah knows the existence, and Allah says, only little information is given to your soul. And Allah only says, Allah breathed His soul only to the human beings, not to the animals. The animals does not have the soul of Allah. That is the reason why they are not as conscious like us.
Dr. I think the question he means is, if really we can create or duplicate another human being, and if that is really two human beings there, then that should be two souls, right? So how do we justify that? I think that is what
we have the identical twins, for example. They have exactly the same genetic information.